Hello and welcome back to Vox Terra. Today, I want to start with a headline from Bernie Sanders' website. Sanders opposes all blank checks to chip companies, July 15th of 2022. Now here he is talking about the CHIPS Act, which recently passed, which stands for, citing to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, Creating Helpful Incentives to Produce Semiconductors for America Act, or CHIPS. Citing CNN, what it contains is $52.7 billion for chip manufacturing and research, which pundits say the US is falling behind in. Now, the only notable restriction that I saw was that regarding doing business with China. But Bernie Sanders' restrictions that he wanted, or strings along with that money, went largely underreported. And I'll get back to that. Sanders pointed out the 5 biggest semiconductor companies that will likely receive the lion's share of this taxpayer handout: Intel, Texas Instruments, Micron Technologies, Global Foundries, and Samsung made $70 billion in profits last year. Sanders also criticized the high CEO pay. I believe he used the word obscene. So looking at Wall Street Journal, Intel CEO pay package worth nearly $180 million. Salary.com for Texas Instruments CEO in 2021, $19 million and change. Micron president and CEO, $25 million. And it isn't just limited to this CHIPS Act. Subsidies are an everyday underreported occurrence. Tax breaks, tax abatements, grants, also infrastructure funding are in research and development. And lastly, one of the biggest subsidies of all, what are called market externalities, meaning the true price of a product in terms of pollution, in terms of its effects on the public health, is just pushed onto the public at large. That person who develops some kind of a pollution-related illness is stuck with the bill. And in the case of our heating planet, well, we're all stuck with that bill to some extent or another. Now think about research and development and what that says about the nature of economic incentives and our economy. And this, what I think is to an extent an overhyped myth that really it's just some people getting super rich and that's benefiting all of us. And research scientists are not the super highly paid people. Now I've heard Bernie use the term corporate welfare. Martin Luther King used the term socialism for the rich. Now the only notable restriction, as I mentioned, on the companies who are receiving this CHIPS money that I'm aware of is restrictions on doing business with China. Private companies that receive financial assistance will be restricted from expanding certain chip manufacturings in China for 10 years. So as I've stated in other videos, this anti-China or really just rattling your saber at any foreign adversary, I believe serves the purpose, it benefits even directly or indirectly, distracting from change at home. It also creates subsidies for another major industry, the defense industry, or the conditions for it. Another big wealthy industry with a lot of influence in government and lobbying power. I think also shows one of the ways our media really fails to examine our own situation or even just flip arguments around in their head. I mean, we've heard over my whole lifetime, China doesn't do business fairly. China's not playing by the rules. Well, what if it was China that was restricting companies from doing business with America? What would our media and politicians say about that? And remember, this isn't new. I've mentioned to you in other videos before, this goes back to all the way back to the Opium Wars during colonial era, when Great Britain burned down China's navy and justified it on China not doing business fair, not doing fair trade. And what Britain was angry about was China not being willing to accept opium imports. Well, back to Bernie, some of the restrictions he was calling for that did not really get much media attention were companies promising in exchange for the money that they wouldn't outsource American jobs overseas or repeal existing collective bargaining agreements and remain neutral on union organizing efforts. To quote Bernie, "Let us rebuild the U.S. microchip industry, but let's do it in a way that benefits all of our society, not just a handful of wealthy, profitable, and powerful corporations." So I believe this should get you to question, or get people to question, to what interests are really being served when you hear people railing against socialism. And remember, Bernie Sanders calls himself a democratic socialist. To what extent is anti-socialist rhetoric really used as cover for this growing gap in wealth and power in America and worldwide? Well, I hope you found this video interesting, enlightening, helpful. And if you did, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel. You click that notification bell. You're commenting, supportive comments, or sincere constructive criticism, welcome. And maybe you want to join my other 2 patrons at Patreon. That's Paolo Grissi and Environmental Coffee House. This show's a lot of work, very time consuming. It comes at a big personal cost to myself. And hey, until next time, it is always peace be with you.